about the gold rushes and silver mines that built the state. Her passion was a young woman named Baby Doe Tabor, yes, who went from rags to riches and back to rags, dying on the floor of the matchless mine. Then she moved to California, learning all the rich history there in San Diego, San Bernardino, and Orange counties. She was especially intrigued to find that the first battle of the Mexican-American War was fought on the nearby hill to the Chino community where she raised her kids. In Virginia, where she and her husband lived for a little over 2 years, she spent every Wednesday in the history section of the library, and every Saturday, she and her husband toured the battlefields of the Revolutionary and Civil Wars. They even joined in the recreation of those times in role plays. Here in Utah, which is so fresh in American history and church history, she has enjoyed checking things out to see what she can learn. The assignment of speech number 7 in the Competent Communicator fit right in with Leslie's love of history. Please join her in a bit of historic research.
6 to 8.
Hello. Sorry, I had a bit of a battle with a wasp in my car on my way here, and I was the one running around the car trying to avoid it. So I'm going to show you a few things and see if you can tell me in this little quest for American folk history what I'm talking about. There's some key words here. Harrington. Tell me, raise your hand when you think you know what it's about, okay? Decorative belt courses. National Register of Historic Places.
Harrington Building next door.
The architectural expression of civic pride. Cooper, Roberts, and Simonson. Am I intriguing you yet? Squared symmetrical plan. Okay. Victorian, Romanesque, eclectic, and Queen Anne trimming.
Architectural design.
Getting there.
And then this building?
Yes, this building. I thought, how many times do we sit in this building and not really look at it? So I thought we would take a quick look at it. So I'll show you just a few things. We'll see what we can get through. So let's go back to these first. What do you think? This is Victorian Romanesque architectural period. It's yes, and that's the kind of the style, but it's also eclectic, so it doesn't stick just with one style. It's got little bits and pieces of other styles in it. Queen Anne trimming. We all know, have you seen any other architecture around southern Utah that has Queen Anne trimming? A little bit of gingerbread and so forth. And this is on the outside mostly that you see the Queen Anne trimming. There's 5 to 7 bays usually in this kind, in the Victorian Romanesque period. There's usually 5 to 7 bays, and this is an architectural, they said that this is an architectural expression of civic pride. It shows, because American Fork started as a farming community, and it then moved into a little subculture and started, it didn't start like normal buildings did, or normal little communities in American Fork, or in the California, the southern Utah area. Because most of them started with the same plats that existed in previous LDS communities, with plats and blocks written, or that were 8 blocks in 5-acre plans. And that's the way most of them started. But in this community, it started out as a farm community. But then they started having problems with the Indians, and so they were told to build a fort. And they started building a fort, and then eventually that problem died down. They never finished the fort, but they put the actual town in this historic district. And the historic district goes from 200 west to 100 east, and from 100 north to 100 south.
Where is that picture on the wall?
Oh, there you go. That's a plat of it. And so that's how it started becoming a more, and this building showed that intent for civic pride of an actual little community, and to take it from the farm community. They actually wanted to show that civic pride, and I think that they accomplished that, don't you? Squared symmetrical plan, and we can see that definitely, can't you, when you look at the building from the outside. I want you to look at this building very differently after today, because I have, as I was driving up, I saw a lot more than I've ever noticed before. The decorative belt courses is the architecture of the straight lines and the design around the belfry. So take a look up at the belfry and you'll see that decorative belt courses. The Harrington was just a hint at Leonard Harrington, as you said, which is the Harrington School. And you can see in the school over there the same type of symmetrical plans, and also the same type of building. And also the same person, and I'm not telling you yet who it is. Does anybody know? Who was the architect of this building was also the architect of the Harrington building, and many other structures around American Fork that are no longer in existence, and maybe a couple that still are.
There's Leonard Harrington's picture too.
Yes, I was going to point that out. Leonard Harrington right there. That's okay. The thing is that when he came, it was very easy because he was the LDS bishop, the postmaster, and the mayor of American Fork. Would that work today? No. And it didn't actually, it started not working a little bit later either. And so that's when they, actually in 1903 is when they built this building, and that was the main purpose, is to start separating the civic and the religious. They were no longer going to use the same buildings for both purposes. And so that's what that was about. Cooper Roberts Simonson was the architects that were chosen to redesign and reconstruct the building. And they came in and, for instance, our beautiful ceiling, they found this ceiling almost intact under a false ceiling that was put up in 1959. And so how many of you really have spent much time looking at this ceiling? It's amazing, isn't it? But they were the company that was chosen to reconstruct at that time. And oh, I told you about the architectural expression of civic pride was very important, that they wanted to show that civic pride. These are the original windows. They found them, some of them boarded up, some of them copied over. This is the oldest existing city hall that's been continuously used since it was built in Utah. So that's an interesting thing. It has projecting eaves, check when you go out, scrolled modelers, and beneath the eaves, it's 50 by 50. The architect was, I forgot his name, real quick here. I have a few more things here to tell you about it, so you'll have to ask me. It has a limestone foundation, it's 12,000 pounds was the bell. And ask me later and I'll tell you when I remember, and I'll tell you who the architect was. I want want you to spend a couple minutes just looking at the ceiling to see if you can hear the voices.